So let's move on with the program, and now it's time for Finland to join the scene. So I want to introduce Professor Sisko Salomaa, who is the Research Director of Radiation and Nuclear Safety Authority of Finland. She has been engaged with EURATOM research since Finland joined European Union in 1995. So she has coordinated EURATOM research projects in frameworks 5, 6 and 7, which are the previous ones. And currently she is coordinator of DoReMi Network of Excellence, which was set up for the integration of European research on low-dose risk. She has been keenly involved in the preparation of strategic research agendas for different fields of radiation protection research, like the OPERA, which was mentioned by Mikola in the beginning here, where she sits in the management board, which is an open project for European radiation research area, which brings together radiation protection research platforms. And today she will share her experiences and integration of European research in radiation protection sciences. Please, Sisko.
Thank you very much for the invitation. Oops. Maybe you can. Okay, sorry. They are all one after the other. Fine. Okay, so I'm very pleased to share my experiences on the integration of European research in radiation protection area, and I think the integration is a very important word here. And just a slide about STUK, where I come from. STUK is the mission of STUK is protecting people, society, environment and future generations from the hazards of radiation. And indeed, STUK is both an authority and an expert body. Authority for the safe use of nuclear energy, regulation of nuclear waste and materials, regulation of use of radiation, and also for the environmental surveillance. And as an expert body, research is very important, and we also carry out services, take care of the emergency preparedness, and of course communication and training activities. So indeed Finland joined European Union in 1995, and since then we have been participating in the radiation protection research. And thinking about the projects, looking back in Framework 5, there were collaborative projects, of course, linked to Chernobyl fallout, radiobiology, decision support tools, and so on. And by time in Framework 6, the project became larger. There were the integrative projects. And in Framework 7, there was a lot of effort put to the creation of strategic research agendas. And there were several networks of excellence that were set up to promote the integration of research in radiation protection area in Europe. And now we are addressing the first Horizon 2020 call. And there is the call for European Joint Programme co-fund action that we already heard about. So a few words about MELODI and DoReMi. As you can see from the acronyms, they are linked. So DoReMi actually leads to MELODI. DoReMi is a network of excellence funded by the European Union, and it is helping in the establishment of the MELODI, which is an association of organizations. So MELODI is the research platform, and it's not of individual members, scientists, but of organizations, research institutes, funding bodies, and so on, universities as well. So some background for the MELODI initiative. So in the early 2000, 10 years ago or so, it was obvious that there had been a decline in resources across Europe, both the human resources and research infrastructures, so retiring people and no replacement, and many infrastructures were also closed down. And it was evident that the groups that were working in the radiation protection area were quite small, research was fragmented in different labs around Europe. And at the same time, there were some new issues and paradigms that demanded multidisciplinary approaches and new competencies, things like non-cancer effects or non-targeted effects. And it was evident that even today, actually, uncertainties still remain for the low-dose risk in particular. There was a lot of knowledge about high effects of higher doses, but for the low-dose area, we simply extrapolated from the high doses. And also it was evident that we needed research which is informative for radiation protection use. So there was a lot of nice academic research, but not very informative for radiation protection. So no single group, institute or country could solve such scientific issues alone, and we needed collaboration and integration. So with the help of the European Commission, a high-level and expert group was established in 2007, and in 2009 a report was published by the group outlining the strategy for low-dose risk research in Europe. You can find this document in the either in the Cordis website or just go to the MELODI website. So some key recommendations from this group were that there are still societal and scientific questions that need to be addressed related to the low doses. So the dose-effect relationship at low doses and low dose rates, exposures, individual sensitivity, non-cancer health effects, and as cross-cutting issues for each of these areas, the effect of internal exposure, tissue sensitives, influence of radiation quality. So it was evident that there was a need for a strategic research agenda and an associated priority roadmap for this research. So this slide here is really showing the system of radiation protection. It's in the middle. Operational concepts, dose limits, constraints, optimization, dose is used as surrogate for risk, additivity of doses is assumed, and at the low dose region, the relevant health effects are cancer and hereditary effects. And then there are a number of operational concepts, so many of them do still today include expert judgment, but also which means that they are assumptions, and we should provide better science to remove some of the uncertainties. And things like individual sensitivities and non-cancer effects, they are currently not taken into account by the radiation protection system. We don't have the science yet to support the inclusion, and we need to judge whether and how they could be addressed. So clearly there would be added value of integration of research. We could move from isolated studies and single disciplines towards a multidisciplinary joint program and address key questions, the most important ones. And the strategic research agenda would guide the joint activities. We would obtain critical mass, integrate scientific disciplines, manage infrastructures and knowledge, and also, which is very important, train the next generation of scientists. So how to move from the high-level and expert group recommendations, how to implement them? First of all, there was the decision to set up the DoReMi network of excellence for low-dose research in EURATOM Framework 7, and it was preparing the transitional research agenda, the first part of the roadmap, and addressing scientific questions by carrying out research. And the other one was the formation of the multidisciplinary European low-dose initiative, the MELODI Association, which was set up according to the French law, actually. And this association now has 30 members. Just briefly, some facts and figures related to DoReMi Network of Excellence. The EC funding for this 6-year project is 13 million euro, and in total it is about 21 million euro. We started with 12 partners, and early on it was evident that we would have calls for new partners. So during the years, we have already implemented 3 competitive calls for new partners, as well as 3 internal calls that are for the consortium members. And the calls were really addressing priorities at each time. So there has been an expansion of the project portfolio and inclusion of new partners. So the final number of partners is really 36, so we went from 12 to 36. And this is the DoReMi work package structure. So most of our activities is really research on the shape of dose response, individual sensitivities, non-cancer effects. But we also have a work package for coordination and development of infrastructures, and for organization and coordination of education and training. It's really training of researchers in DoReMi, so not radiation protection training as such. And the structuring MELODI work package, it's really about assisting in the preparation and updating of the strategic research agendas. So this is the MELODI structure. Is like in any other association. There is the General Assembly and Board, which keeps maintains the contacts to the European Commission, to international organizations, to other low-dose research programs in US, in Japan. And we have the scientific committee as well. And then we have working groups that deal with strategic research agendas, education and training and infrastructures. And quite recently, along with the OPERA project, there have been the joint groups with the other radiation protection research platforms. So members, in fact, they would carry out joint research projects, and they are involved in a number of EU projects as well. And indeed, along the side of MELODI, there have been other radiation protection platforms established for the environmental issues and considerations for the future of European radio ecology. There was the European Radio Ecology Alliance set up, and they also have networks of excellence called STAR and COMET, which are EC-funded projects to help in the preparation of the research agenda and calls. For emergency preparedness and response, there is the NERIS Platform, and in particular they have been renewing the priorities for research after the experience from Fukushima accident. And for dosimetry, there is the EURATOM Association. EURATOM is the European Dosimetry Group, and this has been there for quite a long time now. I think it was established in the 1980s, but recently it has also developed the research agenda, really to look into the research priorities. So what they have been doing since the 80s, it was more about the training activities and developmental actions. So the MELODI activities, in brief, of course, the SRA, Research Priorities Roadmap, that's the very important point. We are also giving scientific opinions on low-dose risk area. Annually, we provide the MELODI Awards, which is for a young scientist. And also annually, we have open MELODI workshops. So this is the forum where the scientists meet. And we are organizing open research calls via the OPERA activity. And we're dealing with the European and national research integration strategy, education and training strategy and coordination, and infrastructures strategy and coordination. And with the other research associations, there has been the Memorandum of Understanding recently signed with the Alliance, NERIS, EURATOM and MELODI. And also at the moment, MELODI is progressing to establish a Memorandum of Understanding with the medical field. And the opera has been a forum for the integration of all these research platforms, so that's quite an important project as well. And it is a prototype for the joint programming instrument to prepare for the Horizon 2020. So as you can see, we have been, and this is again the presentation of all the 4 platforms that are joined together via the Opera project. And some milestones on the integration. This has been quite a rapid movement actually. So the high-level and expert group report was published in 2009. Same year there was the letter of intent by 5 organizations to establish the MELODI. And since then there have been a number of other organizations joining. The collaboration with the other platforms and the Opera, bringing the other platforms together and getting ready now for the Horizon 2020 call. So currently there are 30 MELODI members in Europe, and still some states that are do not have any MELODI members. In the Alliance there are 8 organizations from 8 countries, mainly from the West European countries. And quite a number of countries and organizations are involved in the NERIS platform. Altogether 49 organizations from 24 countries. For some reason Sweden is not part of this. And this slide shows you the ongoing EURATOM projects in the radiation protection area. In the upper line you can see the networks of excellence that relate to the platforms. But in addition to these projects, there are a number of more specific collaborative projects dealing with cerebrovascular disease, cardiovascular disease, coordination of Chernobyl studies, coordination of studies, epidemiological studies in the Semipalatinsk nuclear test site area, epidemiology of CT scans, EpiRadBio dealing with the integration of epidemiology and radiobiology modeling. Andante is related to normal tissue damage after radiotherapy. SOLO is the Southern Urals epidemiological project. Dark Risk is dealing with mechanisms of radiation action in the non-coding genome part. Risk IR is dealing with stem cells and cancer stem cells, and RENEP is the biodosimetry network. So quite a nice repertoire of activities related to low dose risk, radio ecology, and nuclear emergency preparedness. So now we are facing the Horizon 2020. The first call is there for integrating radiation research in the European Union. As you heard before, we have already had several years of preparatory work going to this direction. But now this is really about integrating national programs. And that's again a new challenge. And it builds on the strategic research agendas of MELODI, Alliance and NERIS, and making use of the expertise in the dosimetry and medical use of radiation in these areas. And the expected impact for this European Joint Programme is better integrating of the radiation protection scientific community at EU level, leading to better coordination of research efforts, and the provision of more consolidated and robust science-based policy recommendations to decision makers. And in the long term, these efforts will translate into additional or improved practical measures in view of the effective protection of people and the environment. So this is the objective, and the EC funding for this would be the order of 20 to 21 million euros. Overall, for the radiation protection areas, I think in Horizon 2020, the total budget is 50 million euros. So this is now the first phase. And it is a co-fund action, so there should be co-funding from the national programs. And this has been a matter of discussion, great discussion actually within the consortium, because the first call text said it would be 50-50, the percentage. And I was very pleased to hear from the Commission representative now that it is 70%, because in this area, it is often national organized radiation protection authorities, organizations that are running the programs. They are the program managers. And this indeed, it's quite important for the call that the participants must have a national mandate to be part of the EGP. So that's a criteria, and that's something that not very many organizations can reach. But I think it's very important for everybody in each member state to get organized and describe their national program and find who the national actors are. And in the end, this would give a lot of opportunities to work together, and there will be indeed calls. So majority of this funding will be distributed via calls. So to get prepared in Finland, this is the framework for our national radiation safety research program, in fact covering both ionizing and non-ionizing radiation. So this is the national program dealing with health, environment, emergencies, and the cross-cutting themes here are the risk assessment, technologies and measurements, and risk management. So I think that so this is something that we will build on in the national level, and every country has a bit different programs. So some have larger programs, some have smaller, but I'm sure that there will be areas that allow the participation. And this is also an outline of the National Radiation Protection Research Network. STUK is of course the main actor in this field, but we have contacts to several universities and technical universities that have specific competencies. So our plan is really to strengthen this national collaboration in radiation protection research. And then engage have a role. STUK would have a role in the national level to bring together the universities, and then we would together reach out to the EU research platforms in emergency preparedness, radioecology, dosimetry, and low-dose risk. And in fact, along the line of dosimetry, there is also a metrology program, which is not part of actually EURATOM, but elsewhere. And you will find more information about on the platforms from these websites. So thank you very much for your patience.
It's open for questions now, please. Feel free. Yep.
I have again not a question but a comment. That just this comment of the funding, sometimes it's seen actually from the opposite side as it should be seen. You have to judge not how much money Commission provides, but what should be the amount of budget involved if you would like to fulfill certain amount of research. And especially in this particular case, what will be the impetus of the whole program. So if initially it was thought that we are going to provide 20 millions, will it be 40 millions enough for this program or not? That's the question. Not that if we say you can go up to 70, okay, then we are going to drop our contribution. It should not be judged from that point of view, because we have rather, as a Commission, we have rather limited, if you compare to the budget, national budget, we have rather limited amount of money. And what we are trying to create, or to help to you, to member states to create, it's some pan-European joint programming. And there you have to really think whether you should be rather modest with the budget, or you should go over what's actually asked. So if you put more than 50, so we put 20, you put 40, and because you decide, you members, that it should be like that, then we are more than happy. We are just indicating you what is the formal rule, and there is explanation. I already explained to some people why it has been decided maybe that we are going to shift from 50 to 70, because within the call you may have subcontracting, and then you will be paying 100% of those people, so you will be kind of using your own money. That's the only thinking behind. But again, the budget should be judged not from the point of view how much Commission is ready to put, but what the problematic are you going to solve, and how much money do you need for that. And then Commission can contribute with what do we have. Unfortunately, we don't have much. That's another point in Euratom part.
Mm-hmm. So thank
Just
you very much for
to make right emphasis
for this explanation. And I think that the problems that we have is that not every country could bring in the national program. And then there is a question about what about the other countries. But maybe this subcontracting would solve part of that problem, but not all, I'm afraid. But we are working on this and try to make a good deal.
So how many countries do you expect to be able to join?
Currently we are 12.
Sisko, if I may ask, a constant question was also who is liable to funding? Is it like if Sweden brings a certain amount of money, will then only the Swedish partners be beneficiaries of this money, or will also people from other countries be beneficiaries of the money that is put in by Sweden, or will there be no difference? You will just put everything in a common pot and distribute?
Well, if a country is ready to give out their national funding, that would be probably most welcome by the others, but it's my understanding that the countries have very strict rules on this. So they would fund from the national sources their national participants. So this is how it has been working in ERANET, for example.
It's a very nice dream to have a common pot, but it's almost never working, unfortunately. I think there is an option to have a common pot, but as practice shows, there are other instruments like ERANET, for example. It's not only that people are bringing their own money, but very often they do request the same leverage from the Commission. So if there is a Germany bringing 30 millions to they're saying we are going to finance 30 millions our partners, but from the overall pot of the Commission is paying, let's imagine 100 millions, we would like to get 30 millions as well. And it's always a matter of negotiation. But so far, I'm not aware about common pot, unfortunately. But at least this is a joint program, which I think is very important,
Yes, and I think it would be quite possible also that countries that do not have the national program, let's say as yet, it would be possible that they have their academy or other funding body in the national level, and they could pick a certain call from the EGP saying that if our national organization is successful in the evaluation, then it would be funded nationally. That's a possibility.